Okay, we will call our meeting to order, and we will begin with our land acknowledgement. I'd like to begin by acknowledging that we are in Mi'kma'ki and the district of Sipekne'katik, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people. East Hants further acknowledges the 50 African Nova Scotian communities whose 400-year history have contributed to the province's culture, history, and legacies. We are all treaty people. We will now have a moment of silent contemplation. Next, I would be looking for approval of or amendments to the agenda.
So moved.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary? Motion is carried. I'm now looking for the approval of the minutes of the March 27th, 2024 regular meeting of council.
So moved.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary? Motion is carried. Next, we will move into correspondence for information. Councilors, this has been in front of you throughout the month. We have several on the screen. Is there any item in correspondence for information that any councilor wishes to bring attention to or has questions about? Councilor Perry.
Thank you, Madam Warden. Through you, looking at number 47, the copy of the letter from Director Policy and Services there to Public Works about regarding the railways amendments to the Windsor and Hantsport Railway Line Company. I see they had correspondence with West Hants on the status of that line. I was wondering if we received any correspondence on the status of that line, because I know we've requested it multiple times as well.
Adam?
Through you, Madam Warden, no, we have not at this point.
Okay. I'd like, is there a way that we could reach out to kind of find out why we're not on the list? It's great that it was shared to us by West Hants, but we've been asking about that line for a long time, and it's kind of concerning that they never replied to us about the status of it after the multiple times we've requested.
Would you like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Staff follow up on
I'll make a
this
motion
item?
that staff follow up and find out, if there's any more correspondence that we have not received on this, and maybe also talk to our neighbors in West Hants of any items that they know that we might not have got at the time.
Do we have a seconder? Seconded by Councilor Musa. Is there any discussion on the motion?
Question?
Question's been called. I think someone has not voted.
Councillor Tingley's not here.
Oh,
Oh,
no.
sorry.
And the motion has passed unanimously.
That's it for me, Warden. Thank you.
Any other items on correspondence for information? Councilor Mitchell.
Item 76, just want to check with staff and make sure they're kept in the loop on the CN correspondent with their MP.
Was there a question, or we
No, I
are?
just want to make sure
Yes,
they're
yeah.
you're part of that discussion. Thank you.
Anything further? Seeing none, we'll move to correspondence for decision. And the first item is the Rotary Club of Sackville and area, who are seeking a general government grant in the amount of $500 to support the Recycle Your Cycle program again this year. Bikes can be donated at the Mount Uniac Public Library on May 11th from 10 to 1. And if you look at the correspondence, the Mount Uniac area has certainly benefited greatly from this program. Even though the organization itself is not in East Hants, its service area certainly is in part of East Hants. So what is your wish? Councillor Perry.
I will move that we approve a general government grant for the amount of $500 to support the recycle program again this year.
Do we have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Musa. Is there any discussion on the motion?
Question.
The question's been called. And the motion is passed unanimously. The next item is an email from Robin Fennell around a request to purchase a property at 1175 Highway 2, Lance. Adam, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Warden. So this letter is on your agenda tonight. It's an unsolicited request from Robin Fennell. She owns a property that is abutting our collective properties in Lance that council's been reviewing for, long-term planning for that area. She does have a registered easement to access her property over our property. And she's reached out over the years, as noted in her email, as far back as 2016, just expressing her interest if the municipality was to ever sell a portion of the property or the property, she would be interested in that. And in my conversation with her, I thought it was really important that this come forward to council for information, just to really put it on the record there. I couldn't find it when she's reached out over the years back to 2016 that it's been on the public record, so I explained that to her. I also explained to her that our staff recommendation would be to council that at this time you don't entertain selling the property. And also, she's also requested a right of first refusal as an option. And I was very open. It was a good conversation. She put it in an email to bring it forward, and she did know the staff recommendation to council would be that. But I did mention that it would be on public record, and also I guess council's action today, you could either ask for a staff report and we bring it back to you and talk specifically more about the file, or you could accept and place this letter on file for information today.
And I would just say that as far as a right of first refusal, I don't think we can legally do that.
I don't think it's something that we've explored recently yet.
Councillor Rhino.
I guess through you to Adam, was this explained to her how we dispose of surplus property?
Through you, Madam Warden, yes, it was. And you brought up a good point. There was, in my conversation with her, she had mentioned that I'm not sure who and when she had spoken to municipal staff back then, but talking about abutting property owners could purchase the property. And I clarified council's intent and council's policy for disposal, and that the piece around abutting property owners is really in unique scenarios. And this, if council were to choose to go to dispose of it, there was a public process, and that she would have to follow that process as well.
Good, I'm glad, since hearing that, move this letter be placed, taken in, placed on file.
Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on the motion?
Question.
Question's been called. And the motion has passed unanimously. Next item, Kids Action Program. East Hants is requesting that the municipality purchase a facility or home that could be rented by Kids Action Program. And there was an original request and then a follow-up email to that. Who's taking this one? Alana?
Thank you. Through you, Madam Warden. So there were two communications from the group. The initial one was specific in that they were looking to see if the municipality would actually purchase a residential property located in Kennetcook. So Kids Action, as some of you may remember, did experience loss of their pre-existing space. They had an affordable renting option in Kennetcook. There was a significant damage and they were no longer able to use that space because a car literally went through the building. from the initial contact, they then sent another email where they had actually connected with the province, and the province indicated that there could be some upcoming provincial programs or support, but it would be dependent upon the group having a commercial space or having a space that was potentially rezoned commercial. But again, the group was still looking for municipal partnership in the purchase of that. So really, that's where the request sits right now. The group does receive community partnership funds from the municipality. They do get $10,000 this year. And I guess it's sort of for council to weigh in and determine if they would like more information from the group.
Deputy Warden.
Thank you, Warden. Well, this is just my opinion. We have never been in the business of buying houses. That puts us in direct competition if we do that with any commercial entity that's out there, if we provide this service. I know the space in Kennecott is almost repaired. I know they've utilized space at our fire hall, which has been noised around and offered. They asked about it, and we, at our last meeting, we said yes, they could have it as long as they want it for nothing. So I see this kind of as a moot point right now. If the province wants to come in and buy them a space, I think the province should do that. It's really beyond our means and methods to do that.
Thank you. Councillor Rhino.
I guess the deputy warden summed it up very, very nice. I have to echo his words. I know the group does well in the community, but if we start to entertain going out and buying buildings to rent out the thing, we could have a run at the bank on this and all over the municipality. So right now, Knoll Fire Department has graciously offered them space for free. What more? That's a pretty darn good offer. Thank you.
Do you require a motion of any kind?
Move this
Alana?
letter be taken in and placed on file.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Discussion on the motion? Question's been called.
You want us to let them know?
Motion is passed unanimously. And just further to that, the expectation would be that staff would pass the information, would reply to this group with the discussion tonight. Okay, next, a sponsor request letter for the 2024 Constable Heidi Stevenson Memorial Golf Tournament. Alana?
Thank you. Through you, Madam Warden. There is a group of RCMP officers that partner with East Hants Crime Prevention. And for the past 2 years, they have hosted a Constable Heidi Stevenson Memorial Golf Tournament. It's hosted in Shubenacadie at the Links and Penn Hills. And they have reached out for either tangible prizes or financial support to go towards the golf event. And the proceeds that they get from that event, they actually put towards a bursary that is named after Constable Heidi Stevenson. That bursary is awarded to East Hants students. In March, it was awarded to 3 East Hants students, and it was, I believe each student received $1,000. So this did come in through the office, and it's up for council discussion if they would like to support financially.
Have we supported this?
This is the first time we've received this request. The previous 2 years, we did not receive this request.
Councillor Rhino.
I guess the question through you to staff is how many requests do we get to, of this nature, golf tournaments for nonprofits to sponsor?
Through the warden, this is not something we've received often. We do support bursary funds through our grant programs that we bring to council each year, but this is somewhat of an atypical request. We typically can support through GenGov for things like we just mentioned, the Rotary Recycle Your Cycle, but this is slightly new. We have supported auction items in the past with free punch passes for the Aquatic Center, but
So in 2022, they had their first annual, so where did they draw their support from at that time?
through you, Madam Warden, via the letter, it does indicate that they do go to businesses in the community. So I would assume that they reached out to private business.
Thank you.
I would say, before I move on, counselors, that we could certainly provide, as we do for other organizations, something Malina prizes, I'm sure. We have, for lack of a better word, swag on hand, but Counselor Perry.
Part of that took the words out of my mouth there, Warden, because it says in the letter, like, by donating prizes and things like that. One of the things they also mention is tax receipts can be issued in certain cases. So if a tax receipt is received by the municipality, does it have any effect? Like, do we recoup any of that cost? No? Okay. This is the first time this has come in. I mean, I don't know if this qualifies for special event funding or the special event grants, because it's not a,
Through
I
you,
think-
Through you, Madam Warden, with the major special event grant funding, there's very specific criteria about bringing business into our community and things like that. So I don't believe that would really apply in this circumstance.
I do think that it's very important that we have some sort of presence at this. She was one of our officers. This is being held at the golf course in Shubenacadie. It's also going to have a lot of local businesses and a lot of people here. And I think, being the 4th anniversary of that tragic event, that we should do something. There's no dollar figure request in this letter. There's just like, would you like to do something? And I believe we should do something, whether it's a prize bag or we sponsor a hole or we provide something for everybody. I mean, if all the businesses if they're going to be, businesses normally sponsor the holes, and there's normally a lot of business community people that enter teams. Maybe, part of the swag is part of the entry swag. Like maybe we will say we'll donate something for the entry swag, so everybody gets something branded East Hants, regardless whether they win a prize or not. Lets them know that we care. I think that's where I would like to see our donation go. Whether that's a cup, whether it's a mug, whether it's a shirt or hat, I can leave it up to staff. But I would move that we sponsor this event by providing gifts of municipal branded items to be provided to all the participants in the Memorial Golf Tournament that honors Constable Heidi Stevenson.
Do we have a seconder?
Second.
Seconded by Counselor Musa. On to speak, Counselor Head.
The warden, the money goes to bursaries, and I believe you said there was 3 bursaries donated to last year. And I think my personal opinion is we should give a cash donation, because that way the money is gonna come back to students in East Hants. I understand the motion, it sounds good, but for me, I would sooner see cash go there, because that way it will come back to bursaries to students in East Hants, and they will be reflected by it. Thank you.
Counselor Rhino.
Hearing what Counselor Hibb has said, would there be any interest in maybe another bursary for all high schools in the area, and then from East Hants Council in the name to honor Heidi Stevenson? That, to me, I think would be worthy of discussion, because what I'm trying to get at, if you take the emotional out of this, there are a number of worthy golf tournaments put on through the municipality throughout the run of a year that go toward things that honor people who have passed away, or fundraising, or whatever. And my only thought in this is, if we do donate to this, we're gonna probably open up the floodgates. You did it for this one, you should do it for this one. But if we set aside a specific amount of money to do the same job in our own name, and did it in all 3 high schools that this the municipality serves, I think we would probably be doing a better honor than going through a golf way. I don't know if there's any thought in discussing this further, but that's what I would kind of wish for. Thank you.
CAO.
Through you, Madam Warden, prior to Counselor Rhino speaking, I forgot your name there, sorry. I was just going to suggest the letter is fairly open-ended. I know the ability to put on a good golf tournament does depend on some of the swag and some of the prizes that go with that golf tournament. But cash may also be something that they require. So if council wanted to donate, say, up to $1,000 in either or, we could work with the other constables in figuring out what the best need that they have to make their golf tournament as financially viable as it can be. And we can just work with them within that dollar amount, whether it be swag or whether it be cash donation, or, you know, maybe there's just some other way that we can support them that we're not thinking of right now.
Counselor Perry.
Hearing the discussion and agreeing with both Councillor Rhino and Councillor Hebb, as the mover of the motion, I'd be willing to amend the motion to include that, you know, we correspond with the organizers to see what their preference would be, whether it be cash or the initial motion of swag be sent to help provide, you know, to make their golf
Could I
tournament a success.
suggest that the wording be amended to say, when you say swag
It-
for everyone,
Municipal
up to
branded.
$1,000 worth of municipally branded swag or municipal cash donation to be determined by staff and the organizers?
Yeah, like I said, if somebody wants to make an amendment, I'll be willing to, amend the motion.
The amendment's been moved by Counselor Hebb. Do we have a seconder?
Second?
Seconded. The amount was the $1,000? All right, to the amendment, and I don't remember, were you on before the amendment, Counselor Garden Cole? If you were, I'll allow you a little leeway.
Thank you, Madam Warden. I actually thought I was on earlier. It was when the discussion was just in the early stages, and I was going to agree with.
Oh, sorry, just one sec. There, got you now.
To agree with Counselor Perry, that I feel, and maybe it is an emotional need to support this in some way. So this is really outside the realm of a special event.
Yeah.
Can't be tied into that at all? Okay, because I do kind of see the need in having it fit into some category that already exists, but I am willing to support the motion that's just been made. Thank you.
Counselor Rhino.
Well, with regard to up to $1,000, $1,000 when we look at a municipal budget may not seem like a significant event, but it is significant to the people who are struggling out there. So I know, are we prepared then, if this motion passes, to entertain all golf tournaments that are nonprofit, that are raising money for people who have either passed on, suffered an illness, whatever? Are we prepared to do the same thing or is it going to be judged on a case-by-case basis?
I would assume if a request came in, it would be judged on a case-by-case basis.
Well, to me, this taking the emotional out of this, I think this is setting a precedent. I'd have no problem of looking at of what I suggested before, another bursary to honor her name, but just to give out $1,000 in, I guess swag's not the proper term, but I mean in gifts or whatever, I think really I don't know if I can support this. Thank you.
All right, no one left to speak on the amendment. Are you ready for the question on the amendment? And the motion is passed by a vote of 9-1, with Counselor Rhino voting nay. Now, to the amended motion, Counselor Perry.
Oh, I was going to speak after that.
Okay. The amended motion.
Question on the amended.
Question has been called.
Point of clarification.
Yes. The amendment was to have the value of our donation be up to $1,000, and it could be a combination of swag and/or cash to be worked out between staff and the organizers of the tournament. Is that correct, folks?
Okay, thank you.
So the question's been called on the amended motion. And the motion is passed by a vote of 9-1. Councillor Rhino voting nay. All right.
Can I speak now, Warden?
Yes, Councillor Perry.
Thank you, Warden. And I believe Councilor Rhino does bring up a very valid point in looking at our bursary policy. If this organization is also providing 3 bursaries to all the schools of the East Hants area, maybe we should look at, is there a way to partner with them in the future on this? And that would kind of take some of the burden off or whatever going forward. So I would look to see, I actually would request a staff report on partnershiping with organizations that are providing bursaries and benefits for the students of East Hants, because we have to know how many there are before we start doing this. This is one organization we know of. Maybe there's 4 or 5 others that do the same thing. I think we kind of have to figure out what the pot is first before we start giving money to some and not giving money to others. So understanding all the organizations that are currently doing that for students and residents of East Hants, I think that would be a staff report I'd like to see. Is that clear, CAO?
Is that something that's even doable?
Is it doable?
Yeah, I think the high school probably has that information.
Yeah, because I believe the high schools would have the bursary.
Do we have a seconder?
Second.
Seconded by Councillor Mitchell. Councillor Garden Cole.
Thank you, Madam Warden. So just to clarify, so I'm just thinking that the fact that, we are giving $1,000 and it may set a precedent, could this, and maybe this is what you're talking about, Councillor Perry, but I'm thinking that maybe we could do this year on the condition that this kind of eases into and look like something different next year? Okay, on behalf of Heidi Stevenson, would it be that specific?
No. I think the intent is to look at this type of thing overall, so that we might have a policy or something to fall back on when these requests come in, am I right?
Okay, thank you.
So my intent would be to identify all the organizations that are doing this. We know how the Heidi Stephen Memorial Fund is one. The intent is to see how many more there is out there, and then what we can do with these organizations going forward, understanding what the need and what the scope is. Obviously, it would be my intent that we would next year look at that report and assess how we want to move forward. But I do believe supporting this organization, especially even taking some of the emotion out of it, the fact that they donate their time and they do all this to help future students is a worthy cause. And just understanding all the other groups that are out there doing that would give us a better picture of what the financial commitment might be, or what the need might be, or how we could help the organizations in many different ways, whether it's through publicity or anything else. But that staff report would let us know how many organizations out there are doing it, how many bursaries there are that affect all of East Hants. Thank you.
Councillor Rhino.
Thank you, Councillor Perry. I understand what the intent is. I'll wait for the report. But I caution you that my intent was a standalone bursaries and not partnering with anyone, because, that, I'll wait for the report, but that could lead to piggybacking down the road. At least with the standalone bursary, if we made this and that, we own it, we administer it, we put it in, and we control it. So I'll wait for the report and see what they have to say in the report. But right now, unless I hear something different in the report, my thought would be standalone bursary. Then we control, we have it, and we're not partnering with anybody else. It's free and clear. Thank you.
Folks, we are at the hour of 7:30 and have a public hearing, CAO.
Just have a quick question, Madam Warden. So the report that you're looking for is simple enough if it's a list of people who provide bursaries, but I would caution council on thinking that we would partner with these groups or whatnot, because typically if an organization is providing a bursary, they're very passionate about that cause, and I wouldn't want the government to come in and try and be sort of overshadow that. So if the intent is just a list of what bursaries are currently being offered to East Hants students, that we can pull together. I'm not sure beyond that if your report is how we move forward, or you just want to see that information up front first and then sort of or do you want us to look at a standalone bursary in that report? I didn't hear that from the mover, but.
I think, as Councillor Rhino put it, a standalone option's always there because we control it. My intent is to understand the organizations that are out there, not partnering with them for money things, but maybe in their fundraising efforts, understanding what they do for fundraising, and maybe there's ways that we can help publicize, like add publicity to their events to make their events more successful, to do stuff like that. Because these organizations are out there doing things, and you're correct, CAO, they are very passionate and they are very keen on what they do, and some of them won't want anything to do, but if there's any way that we can help and assist, it'd be nice to know if it is possible, and then we can make decisions. Like after the report comes out and we see the list, we might just say, I agree with Councillor Rhino, to maintain control, to ensure that it's equitable or whatever you want to look at, we might just say, let's just do a standalone bursary in the honor of this case of Constable Heidi Stevenson, or we might look at something else. But just the report, understanding the picture of what's out there, I think is good, because it also I think would be good to understand what's available for students of East Hants, because the cost of tuition and everything is increasing every day.
So, as I said, we are at the hour of the public hearing. Are you ready for the question? Question's been called. And the motion is passed unanimously. Are we ready? Hey, councilors, this evening we have one item on the public hearing agenda. The purpose of this hearing is for council to hear input from the public prior to making a decision on the proposal. To the members of the public who have chosen to participate this evening, welcome. Please note that council's procedural policy requires that you not cheer, boo, clap, or otherwise disrupt this hearing. Anyone who wants to comment or ask questions will be provided with an opportunity to do so. Tonight, council may approve, reject, or defer its decision on the proposal to a later date. Council approval is required for the proposal to proceed. I will now ask the municipal clerk to outline when the public hearing advertisements were published.
Madam Warden, a public hearing notice appeared in the April 10th and 17th editions of the Chronicle Herald. The notices described the proposal, gave the date and time of this public hearing, and indicated the staff reports were available to the public.
Councilors, the public hearing this evening is regarding a development agreement application in 9 Mile River. I would now ask the chair of the Planning Advisory Committee to present his report.
Planning Advisory Committee has considered the proposal on behalf of Municipal Council. The committee has reviewed staff's report, completed their evaluation, and will make a recommendation to council during this hearing. Madam Warden, through you, I now would ask staff to present their final report on the proposal.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Warden. So again, tonight's public hearing is for a development agreement application in 9 Mile River. So the two subject properties are located at 7224 Highway 14 in 9 Mile River. Both properties are zoned the two dwelling unit residential zone and are designated established residential neighborhood. And both properties total 5,574 square meters, so 1.37 acres. And the properties are not located within a growth management or growth reserve area. So the applicant has requested to enter into a development agreement to allow for the operation of an educational service use on the properties with the intention of opening a cosmetology school specifically related to the instruction of hair design, styles, and related practices. So the property does have an existing dwelling located on it and the other is vacant. So the school will operate out of the existing dwelling and parking for the school will be located on the vacant piece of land. And the school will be located on the main floor with a residential dwelling below. So staff have reviewed the proposed application and based on the applicable policies contained in the municipal planning strategy. So the final table of the evaluation was contained in the staff report. Policy OS 28 states that council shall consider institutional uses in all zones by a development agreement to ensure that the institutional use is in the community's best interest. And educational services are permitted use in the institutional use zone. Therefore, as per the policy, this use is permitted by entering into the development agreement. And policies IM 27 through 29 allow council to consider development agreements and sets out the evaluation criteria and conditions for entering into the agreement. For citizen engagement, so there was an initial advertisement placed in the Chronicle Herald in January, just indicating that the application was under review. And we then sent letter and questionnaires to all property owners and residents within 300 meters of the site. 46 letters were sent out and 6 were returned. Some of the comments included increase in water, as well as an increase in traffic, potentially along Birch Hill Drive. We did reach out to Nova Scotia Public Works and they indicated that a negative impact was not anticipated on either road with this application. And council does have all copies of the questionnaire responses. And a letter again was mailed to property owners indicating the date and time of this hearing, as well as a notice placed in the Chronicle Herald. So staff have completed the review and are recommending approval, and council's decision this evening is appealable to the Nova Scotia Utility and Review Board. So that concludes my presentation. Thank you, Madam Warner.
Thank you. Does any member of council have questions for staff? Seeing none, I would now ask if the applicant has any comments or would like to make a presentation. No? I will now open the floor for comments and questions. If you are viewing the YouTube live stream, you may use the YouTube chat feature, which is being monitored. First, does anyone attending in person have any questions or comments? Does any member of the public have questions or comments through the live chat on the YouTube live stream? No? Does any member of staff have any final comments?
So,
No. I would now ask the chair of the Planning Advisory Committee to present his committee's recommendation.
Planning Advisory Committee recommends the council give final consideration and approve entering into development agreement for educational service use on properties identified as PID 451-23122 and 451-23114. As chair of PAC, I so move.
Seconded by Councillor Head. Councillor Musa.
Thank you, Madam Warden. I saw one of the comment about the.
Comments are confidential.
Oh, no,
Councillor.
yeah. I'm not saying who said, but.
No, the comments are confidential.
Oh, okay.
We can refer to them generically, but we can't be specific.
Okay, thank you. So, one of the concerns was the entrance from that, the other road, not the Highway 1, not the Highway 14. So
Is the entrance to the
No,
property
this
gone?
this would be through me to staff.
Oh, okay. Through you to staff. Is the entrance of the property gonna be off Highway 14 or of the other gravel road?
Oh, 1 second. Okay.
Through you, Madam Warden, both roads are provincially owned, and they did comment and said that access would only be granted off of Birch Hill Drive
Oh, okay.
and not off of Highway 14.
So it's a provincial road. Oh, sorry,
they're
I didn't
both
know it's
provincial.
provincial road.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any further questions? The question has been called. And the motion is passed unanimously. That concludes tonight's public hearing, and I would like to thank you folks for attending. Okay, councilors, returning to our agenda. We are at the ratification of the Housing Accelerator Fund Agreement. And who's taking that one?
That's Council Mitchell.
All right.
I will make a comment.
Council gave direct,
CAO was asked to make a comment.
Okay.
first, Councilor.
Through you, Madam Warden, just to note that the motion that was actually made, direction that was given in camera was for an amount lower than that, but we were able to secure more funding, so the 5.885 million is the actual amount of funding, not from the original direction.
Okay. Go ahead, Councilor.
council gave direction to staff during in-camera sessions on February 20th, 2024, and February 22nd, 2024, authorizing the CAO to work with Camden Mortgage and Housing Corporation, CHMC, and the Minister Fraser's office to enter into a Housing Accelerator Fund agreement. The agreement was finalized and a public funding announcement was held. Council may now proceed with ratification. I move that the CAO be authorized to work with CMHC staff and Minister Fraser's office to enter into a Housing Accelerator Fund agreement for $5.885 million, which adds an initiative to review the East End's planning documents to increase housing density as appropriate, including greater use of the accelerated dwelling units across the municipality and densification of village core areas of the service communities of Enfield, Elmsdale, Lance, and Shubenacadie by increasing as of right permissions from 12 units to 16, and that the Housing Accelerator Fund agreement shall be made available to the public. As chair of the committee, I so move.
Seconded.
Seconded by the Deputy Warden. Is there any discussion on the motion? Councilor Rhino.
Thank you, Madam Warden. Well, while it may be nice to have $5.885 million in the municipal coffers, it's my opinion that this Housing Auxiliary Fund will not produce really truly affordable housing within East End. I feel this way. I don't feel there's enough checks and balances in the system. I just think that I'll keep that thought to myself. But I cannot support this because I really don't, like as I said, is it truly gonna produce affordable housing? I have my doubts. And 5.8 million, I'm sorry, they can't, in my opinion, the money doesn't mean that to me. It's the purpose. So I'll be voting against it.
Any further discussion? Question's been called. And the motion is passed by a vote of 10-1 with Councilor Rhino voting nay. We'll now move into committee reports. First on the docket, Corporate and Residential Services. Over to you, Councilor Perry.
Thank you, Madam Warden. The committee held its regular meeting on April 16th, 2024, and the following motions are coming forward as a result of that meeting. Council remuneration and travel reimbursement policy. The Corporate Residential Services Committee recommends to council approve the amendments to the council remuneration and travel reimbursement policy as attached to the executive committee agenda dated April 16th, 2024. As chair of the committee, I so move.
Seconded by several people. Deputy Warden's the one I heard first. Is there any discussion on the motion? Question's been called. And the motion is passed by a vote of 10-1 with Councillor Rhino voting nay.
Review of recognition policy. The Corporate Residential Services Committee recommends to council that council approve the changes to the recognition policy, which provides more clarity around firefighter long service recognition as attached to the executive committee agenda on April 16th, 2024. As chair of the committee, I so move.
Seconded by Councillor Mitchell. Is there any discussion on the motion? Question's been called. And the motion is passed unanimously.
Council procedure policy. The Corporate Residential Service Committee supported changes to the council procedure policy as proposed by staff at the executive committee meeting held April 16th, 2024. The committee further amended wording under section 9.1.3 and recommends the council accept these changes. Following the executive committee meeting, the CAO held a legal review conducted, and the municipal solicitor suggested adding clarifying wording shown below in red. Recommended motion per legal review. The council approved the council procedure policy as attached to the executive committee agenda dated April 16th, 2024 as amended, with change 1 as included in the report, change 2 as included in the report, change 3, section 9.1.3 as amended to read, except when dealing with the local MLA or MP on local district issues or advocating for constituent with provincial local area staff, clearly indicating they are not representing council. Council members shall not engage or communicate with members of other levels of government departments or agencies, municipal vendors, or other corporations on specific to East Hants municipal matters unless authorized to do so by council or the warden. If council has directed staff to engage members of other levels of government or an organization on a specific topic, local or otherwise, individual councillors may not speak on behalf of council on the issue unless authorized to do so by council or the warden. Nothing in this provision shall prohibit a councillor from communicating with the councillor's constituents. As chair of the committee, I so move.
Seconded by the Deputy Warden. Is there any discussion on the motion? Councillor McPhee.
Thank you, Madam Warden. I would just, when I read this, I just wanted a clarification on the addition where it says other corporations on specific to East Hants municipal matters. So does that mean that if we want to talk to someone higher up, say in natural resources, about a question that a specific resident had, it's not an overall East Hants question, would we be able to go up higher than just whatever the most local person is?
CAO?
Through you, Madam Warden, the specific to East Hants would be more so around if you're sort of at a conference and you're speaking to other levels of government, obviously there's different officials there that, you can speak about municipal issues. That's why you're at the conference. You're there to talk about issues, but it's those specific issues that we discussed in committee. That's why that was added.
Okay, yes, that's what I thought it must have been.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Any further discussion? Question's been called. And the motion has passed by a vote of 10-1, with Councillor Tingley voting nay.
The Corporate Residential Services Committee recommends to council direct staff to facilitate a grant under the Heritage Incentive Program policy for the Uniacke Union Church Trustees Association for $5,000 if criteria is met, and the council also approved the use of the beautification reserve funds from District 8 for $5,000 and District 9 for $12,000 to fund the Union Church roof project. As chair of the committee, I so move.
Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Question's been called. And the motion is passed unanimously.
As chair of the committee, I move the adoption of this report.
Seconded by Counselor Musa. All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary, motion is carried. So moving on, we will go to the Planning Advisory Committee report. Counselor Mitchell.
The committee held its regular meeting on April 16th, 2024 in council chambers. The following motions are coming forward as a result of that meeting. Accessory dwelling unit fees. Planning Advisory Committee recommends the council authorize the waiver of building permit fees for accessory dwelling units retroactive from April 1st, 2024 until December 31st, 2026. As chair of the committee, I so move.
Seconded by Counselor Hebb. Is there any discussion on the motion?
Question?
Question's been called. And the motion is passed by a vote of 10-1, with Counselor Rhino voting nay. Back to you, Counselor Mitchell.
Plan 23-012, Tammy and Joe Ferguson, Development Agreement, 9 Mile River. This was dealt with at the public hearing. Next item is UNIAC Secondary Planning Strategy, the survey results. Planning Advisory Committee recommends that the Planning Advisory Committee recommends to council that council accept the UNIAC Secondary Planning Strategy Survey Results Report and authorize staff to hold an open house and public information meeting in the community of Mount UNIAC. As chair of the committee, I so move.
Seconded by Counselor Musa. Is there any discussion on the motion?
Question.
Question has been called. And the motion is passed unanimously.
UNIAC Secondary Planning Strategy, Commercial Land. Planning Advisory Committee recommends that council authorize staff to include the recommendations outlined in the UNIAC Commercial Review Report in the draft UNIAC Secondary Planning Strategy Report. As chair of the committee, I so move.
Seconded by Counselor Perry. Is there any discussion on the motion?
Question?
Question has been called. The motion is passed unanimously.
As chair of the committee, I move the adoption of this report.
Seconded?
Seconded by the Deputy Warden. All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary, motion is carried. We will now move to the Parks, Recreation, and Culture Committee report. Over to you, Counselor Rhino.
Thank you, Madam Warden. The committee held its regular meeting April 16, 2024 in council chambers. The following motions are coming forward as a result of that meeting. Tourism grants. The Parks, Recreation, and Culture Committee recommend that council approve the tourism grant funding recommendations totaling $40,050 to be approved for the following organizations. East Hants Historical Society, $5,000. Maitland District Development Association, $13,500. Walton Area Development Association, $4,050. Chart Society, $11,300. Gore Trails, $6,200. And that staff release approved funds as confirmation of external funding sources for proposed project are received from each group. As chair of the committee, I do so move.
Seconded?
Seconded by the Deputy Warden. Is there any discussion on the motion? Question has been called. And the motion is passed unanimously.
Madam Warden, as chair of the committee, this brings me to the end of my report. I move the adoption of said report.
Seconded by Counselor Hebb. All those in favor? Contrary, motion is carried. Next, we'll go to Counselor Garden Cole for the East Hants Source Water Protection Committee report.
I'll try. The committee held its regular meeting on April 10th, 2024, electronically via Zoom. Lauren Johansson, environmental and industry instructor, presented on waterborne diseases via PowerPoint presentation. The presentation focused on 2 organisms that are resistant to chlorine disinfection, Giardia lamblia and the more severe Cryptosporidium parvum. These form waterborne diseases, giardiasis and cryptosporidiosis respectively, which are sourced from bacterial pathogens primarily from animal feces. The presentation stimulated further questions and discussions specific to our source waters. Ms. Chelsea McPherson presented and discussed the source water sampling results from 2023 for Grand Lake and Shubenacadie. Grand Lake elevated results for bacteria were discussed but were not a cause for concern. Ms. Chelsea McPherson noted potential academic partnerships, one with DFO sampling in Grand Lake for invasive zebra mussels, and the other with Nova Scotia Community College and the impacts of climate change on residential wells in Shubenacadie. Ms. Chelsea McPherson provided an update on the Wetland Vulnerability Tool and recruitment for the Source Water Protection Advisory Committee's vacant positions. There are no motions coming forward as a result of the meeting. As chair of the committee, I move the adoption of this report.
Seconded by Councillor Mitchell. Is there any discussion on the motion? Question's been called. All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary, motion is carried. Nominating committee report. I guess that's me. I'll turn the chair over to the deputy warden. The committee considered applications for the public membership of the Police Advisory Committee as a result of a term ending April 30th, 2024. And the following motion is coming forward as a result of that review. The term for the current 3 members ends on April 30th, 2024. Following a recruitment process, there are 2 members of the public qualified to serve at this time. Public advertisement and social media promotion will continue to fill the 3rd vacancy. In the middle of this, we did have a resignation from one member who is moving away, so that further complicated things. The nominating committee recommends to council that council appoints Greg Densmore and Nicole Cluett as public members of the Police Advisory Committee with a 3-year term ending April 30th, 2027. As chair of the committee, I so move.
Moved by Warden Rolston, seconded by Councilor Musa. Any discussion on the motion? Question has been called. We'll go to the vote. And the motion is passed unanimously.
Chair of the committee, I move the adoption of this report.
Moved and seconded. All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Turn the chair back to you, Warden.
Thank you. Well, I will turn it back to you for the warden's report, which I am woefully unprepared for. Okay. Well, it seems, in spite of the Easter holiday, it seems to have been a fairly busy time. I did on the 6th, I attended a, I believe it was an 80th birthday party for Bill McCullough in Knoll. And I did have a call from the proponents for the Red Spruce wind farm proposal, and they had asked if I would consider, and I had some discussion with them online, and they wanted me to consider sitting on their CLC, their Community Liaison Committee, and this proposed project is in my district, so I did agree that I would sit on that committee when it's formed, and hopefully it would generate some funding for the community. What else is on my calendar here? I'm sure you're not interested on when I went to the dentist. On the 19th, I was very pleased to attend the annual Volunteer Recognition Night, which was held at the Enfield Fire Department. It was very heartening to see the large number of folks in attendance and the larger number of people receiving awards this year. Volunteerism is indeed alive and well in our community, and it was an enjoyable evening, and certainly reiterate congratulations to all those volunteers who were honored. And our Volunteer of the Year, which will represent us next year at the provincial level, was Margie Newman, and a well-deserved recognition for her as well.
District 6.
On the 20th, I was privileged to attend the Gore Fire Department's 55th anniversary banquet. Once more, another enjoyable evening, and I was able to pass out some recognition medals at that event, and bring greetings from council and congratulations to that organization. And I'm sure, as always, that I have probably forgotten something that I did in the month, and I'll remember as other people raise those things in their reports. But that concludes my report for now.
Any questions for the warden on her report? Hearing none, I will turn the chair back to you, warden, for business of councilors.
Thank you. I can never remember where I started. I think I started there last month, did I? Sure. I'm going to start with Councillor Tingley.
On March 30th, I attended the Lions Big Breakfast in Milford. Was well attended, the biggest attendance they've had for quite a few years. Councillor Hebb was also in attendance. April 4th, attended NSFM Group Insurance Committee meeting. Won't report on any of the details there, but if you ever want any details about what goes on there, and if you're not too quick to fall asleep, I'll let you know. Also attended the Volunteers Award night in Enfield, and it was a great night. Amazing to see some of the volunteers. Councillor Rhino did an excellent job of emceeing and had quite a bit of humor that night. Some of the awards there were pretty impressive. 50-year, 45-year awards. Again, Councillor Rhino, I think, was 45-year award. One lady I heard 73 years. So volunteerism is alive and well in East Hants. Only one other issue I brought up to staff about speeding complaints I was getting from residents in one subdivision in Lance. I got a call a couple of days ago from a lady about ATV speeding up and down Logan Drive, and I would just ask staff to just consider that, look into that, and see if something could be done there. I actually hear a little bit of rumblings about ATVs in Lance, but this is the first call in a while that I've heard. So that's it.
Thank you. Jesse.
Through Madam Warden, it's a good time to talk to just speeding. There's nice weather. There's different types of vehicles out. So I wanted to just reiterate process. As residents come in with concerns of speeding, I believe we've had staff discuss that with the individual that made the complaint. We consider those for our temporary digital speed display signs. And so a request to make that visible, and we've got a rotation. So as those come in, if there's an inquiry or request on those from an area with concerns on speeding, that can go to roads@easthants.ca. And we triage. It's usually a 4-week cycle per location, so it does take time if there's a lot of requests. And if there's concerns over more concerns beyond that, that gets folks that want to educate and modify their behavior. If there's some dangerous driving happening, the call needs to go to the RCMP. That's the enforcement, motor vehicle violations. That's where we want to send residents. So those are the 2 points for education and modifying behavior. getting people to submit requests or inquiries to roads@easthants.ca. That's the route we'd prefer, or call, and we'll figure it out. And then if it's public safety concerned, RCMP for road violations. Thank you.
Okay, anything else, Counselor Tingley? Counselor Musa?
Thank you, Madam Warden. I also attended, even was a little bit late for commitment for work, the volunteer award, and it was a great success as usual. And it's nice to see all the volunteers and all the work they do for our communities. And staff did a great job too. So, I also attended the firefighters award in Mount Uniacke, and it was nice to see all the young people that joining. We have a nice crowd of junior volunteers now, probably 10 of them or 12. So it's not always nice to see them growing. And as you know, like the firefighters are the backbones of the rural community, and it's nice to always see them growing and doing their job. And we also, the fire chief retired, and we have a new one, and it's Sean Darby. He's on the fire advisory committee, and we're looking forward to work with him. And I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Perry?
Thank you, Madam Warden. Yes, I also attended the Uniacke Fire Awards for the department, and it was great to see, as Councilor Musa said, the growing numbers of junior firefighters as part of the junior program, and they were all presented with their green helmets, which was a highlight for a lot of them, as designating them as junior firefighters. It was also great to see a large number of the retired firefighters that were invited for the event as well. One of the things that they were all presented with was the 75th anniversary of the department. The department, through the 50/50 funding, got jackets for all of the retired members that have given a ton of time, and also the serving members. So it was great to see them be rewarded in that way. Again, as Councilor Musa mentioned, I'd just like to say thank you to Brian Supple. He received his 35th year long service award at the volunteer night that I also attended, and his last night was his last night as an active member of the department. He retired last night, stepping down as chief. His efforts over the last three years have done a lot for the community. He's not always the easiest guy to get along with, but he tells you things straight, which is also refreshing in a lot of ways. And I've known Brian since I was probably about 8 years old or even younger. So I wish him well in his retirement. Incoming new chief, Sean Darby. His deputy chief, Henry Raymakers, stayed on and was reelected for a second year as deputy chief. So that team should do well going into the future. Sean's sits on the Fire Advisory Council, and he's very passionate, and I think we'll see how things go from here. But I think the department's in good hands moving forward. I also attended the volunteer awards, and as Councilor Musa said, blown away by seeing a volunteer. There's the volunteers in the Long Service Fire Awards for 50 years. And I know the councillor from the area will probably say the name later, but I was somebody who volunteers in a community for 73 years is absolutely, that's amazing. That's almost 3 lifetimes right there. So that's, seeing that happen in our communities, and there's a lot of people that do that for that period of time or close to that period of time if they live that long, that go unseen, that go unrewarded, that go unnominated. There are plenty of people who don't want to be nominated for volunteer awards, and it's very difficult to get them nominated because they don't want to show up, they don't want the recognition. But there's a lot of unsung heroes in a lot of our districts, I know that. I know recently in Mount Uniacke, we lost another member of the community, Jim McDonald. He owned the company Jim McDonald Masonry and Roofing. And Jim was one of those unsung heroes that if there was ever a charity event going on, he'd show up And he opened his pocketbook, and on many occasions, he would go to one charity event and buy all the toys that came up for auction and then donate them to another charity for the toys to be given out to sick children or given out to children at Christmas time. He was one of the top people who supported Wish Givers at the Wish Givers auction. So there was lots of ways that he helped out throughout the community. Also, in his business, he did things to make sure that everybody, if they were getting something done, he recently before he passed away a few years ago, redid the fire hall in the community, and I believe he also gave them a little bit of a deal because it was something good for the community. So, you know, losing members like that, this is the third one in the last 3 months in the community, does have an effect, and it'll be felt for some time to come. I also attended the library board meeting in Truro. I'll let Councillor Mitchell, the chair of the board, fill you in on more of those things, but it was a good meeting. The second meeting with our new executive director. Been in contact with the Home and School. The Home and School has been pretty quiet this year in Mount Uniacke, but they're actually starting to get things together, preparing for the 2024-2025 year, and hopefully we'll be coming back and getting things organized for that. This weekend at the Uniacke District School, they're putting on a play called Wonka Jr. There's a Friday night show, Saturday matinee, and a Saturday night show. Tickets to the door are $10 for adults, $5 for students. Kids have worked hard all year preparing for this. The last show they put on a couple years ago was well received. And if anybody's available in the area and wants to take it in, I'd highly recommend it. And the last thing I have, I also attended the public information meeting in Mount Uniacke. That I think was a lot more attended than what was expected by a lot of people. It was a over than full house. Some very passionate people, and it was good to see, and great to hear all the concerns coming into staff, which will then feed into future reports. The last thing I have, it's a comment received, and this will go to staff for Director of Parks and Rec. There's been some issues at the Memorial Park in Mount Uniacke in dealing with accessibility. We have the accessible spinner there with the walkway, but the residents, due to the small size of the parking lot, are having a hard time getting from the parking lot actually to that path because it is a very rocky gravel path. So there is a designated spot for those with some accessible issues to park, but even then, if you're moving from if the child seats on the opposite side of the car, just even navigating around that gravel to get to where the path has been put in has been proven to be difficult. So I just would like to see if staff can look at options at either expanding the parking space to allow the accessible space to be closer to the accessible attraction there, or I welcome any staff ideas to make it easier for those with accessibility issues to access the accessible spinner and the accessible swing. Those have been things that are being very well used. Every time I drive by, I've seen multiple people with wheelchairs and other mobility aids using those attractions, which is really good to see. I don't know if I need to make a motion for that or if it's something staff can look into.
Through you, Madam Warden, it's certainly something that staff can look into and then come back with some options and see what we can do.
Okay, thank you. And that's it for District 8.
Thank you. And before I move to the deputy warden, I would just say I knew somebody would say something that would jog my memory. On May the 5th, if anyone is interested, there is a dessert and tea party at the Rod and Gold Mines Hall in support of the local United Church. $10 for adults, 10 and under $5. Anyone who would like to have a ticket reserved, let me know. Thank you. Over to you, Deputy Warden.
Thank you, Warden. I too attended volunteer night. Great volunteers were present there. Margie Newman, who was the model volunteer of the year, Sunday morning was back in the fire hall working the breakfast with us. Busy morning, we had 181 at it. Tuesday, she was busy again putting on dinner for seniors in the New Horizons Hall. The lady never stops. It is this weekend, I believe, is the start of the dinner theater that the Knoll Church puts on. It is, there are performances Sunday, Wednesday night, and the following Sunday. It is, it's great entertainment. If you're in the area, give one of the ladies from the church a call. And one of the ladies that's working that is a 73-year-old volunteer.
Not year old.
Or 73 years of volunteering, yes, because I won't say Betty's age, but it's not 73. And that is all I have to report.
Thank you. Counselor McPhee.
Thank you, Madam Warden. Yes, this past Monday, I attended the second meeting of the Housing Strategy Work Group, and I think we're starting to make some progress. It's just very early days, and possibly we can eventually come up with something that'll satisfy Councillor Rhino that there is some advantage to the money that we've received. I've had some questions from residents regarding the Havenwood development, so encourage anybody that's listening or wants to spread the word in case they haven't seen it, that there's a public information meeting on the 7th of May here at the Lloyd Matheson Center. So hopefully people will show up and be able to ask their questions and get some more information on the development itself. I've been able just to give them a little bit that we've known ourselves, so it'll be interesting to hear what questions come up. And I attended the public information meeting in Mount Uniacke, and I must say, yes, it was lively and informative. There was a great crowd there. But, well, everyone, there was no problem. Everything was very good. And, of course, I also attended the volunteer dinner, and, yes, another great success. It was great to see that many volunteers and everyone turn out, and I won't elaborate on that. Separate sort of a topic, although it's outside of District 4. It concerns the crosswalk on Route 214 in Beaverbrook. And a resident of District 4 was walking through that crosswalk. The lights were activated, and unfortunately they got hit. Turned out to be a hit and run. They ended up in the hospital, concussion, broken bones. And then anecdotally, I heard that there was another person hit there 2 days later. So I know that's a municipal crosswalk. It's a mid-block crosswalk. And the lights were lit. I was wondering, I know we've spoken.
Where is that, Counselor? Could you?
Oh, right in Elmsdale on Route 214.
Kind of Brook Court.
Yeah, Brook Court. I said Beaverbrook. Sorry, Brook Court.
Okay.
I've always confused those two names, sorry. But anyway, I was wondering if, just to make it more visible for people, I've seen them other places. I think we did speak about this once with Jesse, or I did with Jesse, about the signs, the warning signs. They have the flashing lights right on top of them, solar operated. I thought since they're more at eye level of the driver, possibly they would make it safer. So just wondering if that's something that staff could comment on.
Jesse?
Through Madam Warden, that particular crosswalk is actually maintained and operated by the province. It's a unique scenario where there used to be a school there. The crosswalk was established because of the school. And so the RA5 was installed by the province and continues to be maintained by the province. The conversion to an RRFB, a rectangular rapid flashing beacon, highly recommended. They're great. What I would suggest is council request a letter be sent to the province inquiring about a transition to RRFBs at that location by the province to engage in so it officially kicks the conversation off and put something on the books. That would be my recommended approach on that. if there was a motion and endorsed and go that route. But that crossing in today's world is maintained by the province. They may have different perspective with the transition to RFB, but to officially kick off the conversation, it'll bring all that out in the wash, if you will.
Thank
So
you.
you'd be looking for a motion for staff to engage with the province on that.
Yes, I would like to make that motion.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on the motion?
Question.
Question's been called. The motion is passed unanimously. Anything further, Councillor McPhee?
Yes, issue in Shubenacadie about the school bus stop that occurs in front of the Home Hardware. They let off the elementary students there, and I've spoken, met with the parents and guardians of the students in Disembark there. There's a bit of concern because the students then, and these are quite young children, a lot of them, they have to walk up Conley Hill. There's no sidewalk. It's a very narrow road, very little bit of shoulder there, and it's a concern. They used to have a bus stop on both Tower and Second Streets a number of years ago, and that was removed. So I forgot to wrap here. So, well, basically that's it. It's a dangerous area for the students to walk up and leave that. So I would like to make a motion that would like to move that council write a letter requesting reinstatement of the bus stop on Conley Hill in Shubenacadie to serve many young families who live in the subdivision. Removal of this bus service a few years ago has had a significant impact on families and children traveling to school. This letter should be directed to the Minister of Education and Early Childhood Development, copied to the Deputy Minister and the Acting Executive Director of the Chignecto Central Regional Center for Education. I so move.
Do we have a seconder? Second. Seconded by Councillor Perry. Councillor Garden Cole.
Thank you, Madam Warden. I just want to confirm, in your opinion, that's more than 1.6 kilometers, right?
Yes.
Okay, I'm just thinking, because if it was anywhere near there, they would not be in their best interest to even bring it to the school board, but as long as it's over the 1.6.
I'd have to, yes, I guess when you get into that 1.6, yeah.
1.6 is further than I think, but yeah, just I would just go ahead with the motion, but I would just caution that you just confirm that before you open up something that might not be to people's advantage. Although if it wasn't 1.6, I'm sure they would have they wouldn't be traveling the bus, they'd be walking, so.
Yeah.
Anyway, just a thought on that, thank you.
Any further discussion?
Question.
Question's been called. The motion is passed unanimously. Back to you, Councillor.
Oh, that's it for me, thank you.
Councillor Hebb.
Thank you, Madam Warden. As a rep from the Northern Waste Regional Meeting, not too much to report this month, but there's a waste audit report coming forth to Divert, Nova Scotia. Probably be presented in October, and analysis will be made of that. Can't think of the letters of it now. Anyway, it's ongoing. And during the month, I presented a 90th birthday certificate to Mary Thompson and a 50th anniversary certificate to Arnie and Deanie Wood. And I also worked at the Lions Breakfast in Milford, and a huge turnout there. Also attended the information meeting about Uniac. And volunteer awards, if we stop and think of the amount of hours that these people put in, it would be in the thousands of hours, and if we had to pay for that, I'm afraid we'd go broke, so kudos to staff, a beautiful job you fellows did down there too on that, and congratulations to all the staff, they're all the members that got rewards. And last, there's a community breakfast this Sunday in East Gore. Very good breakfast. Anybody that's hungry, if you go, you won't leave hungry, I guarantee you. So, and back to the Waste Management EPR program. Finally hit my head. That's ongoing. They're still working at it, and updates will be further on this year. So, thank you, Warden.
Thank you. Counselor Eisner.
Thank you, Madam Warden. I also attended the Zoom meeting for the Grand Lake. Yes, there is lots of critters in the water. Jesse was saying how much chemicals we had to go through. I'm not sure, is that normal, or is that just a once in a lifetime or something? But it seemed like a high numbers. Wayne must have been really busy down there making everything balance.
Through Madam Warden, what was discussed and updated in the Source Water Advisory Committee was the abnormal situation we faced this past year, and between the months of June and October, the water in the river and overall within the Grand Lake watershed was significantly higher than it has been since we've been monitoring. It's actually, the river levels are flipped from what seasonally they were supposed to be. And so even before the flood event in June, the June 2nd marked the kind of the start of a wet season that is still persisting today. This is our first full week without significant rain in a row since June 2023. And what that's done is the high water levels have led to high sedimentation within the water, which creates longer treatment times, which requires longer treatment, means more chemicals, means more costs, and that's where that discussion went. And with the major flood event, that sedimentation went way up, and it was a big spike. And so there was a lot of effort into treating the water and make sure the utility was delivering potable, high quality water to residents, and it came with a cost. And so that was a one-off year that we've not experienced in the last decade, for sure.
Thanks for that explanation. I work with the H. Horn School. They're getting their insurance grant money. Attend the volunteer award night, and thanks to Joe Schwimmer for keeping all the sheep in line. Everybody was kind of going crossways trying to get the meals out there, but you did a good job anyways. The fire truck, I don't know, you guys always probably seen it parked out in front of Infield there. Big one we have, the $1 million truck. Well, I saw it on the Horn Settlement there, and he parked on the road. He was doing a chimney fire, and I said, man, you just put that sucker right over there. It was amazing, safety and all that stuff. It was really nice to see a big piece of gear working like that, but very safe. Working on trying to get a vehicle removed from Woods Road. Talking to another counselor here and saying it's pretty difficult, but we're still working on trying to get it moved because it's gone to the second phase. First, you leave your vehicle there. Second wave is to smash all the windows and doors out of it. And then the third wave is they'll torch it. And that's just how the minds of a lot of people work in the woods doing that, not work in the woods, but they're driving in the woods. So I really want to get it pulled out of there before fire season, if I can. Is there any information on the meter reading on the highway by the ESSO? I guess at the meter counting the cars going by. Do you know anything about that? It's pulled out of there now. It just left about 2 days ago.
Certainly, through Madam Warden, the province had counters out in that general area to assess the potential needs or ability to place a public crosswalk near the corner of John Murray Drive and Highway 2. It's an inquiry that we've been checking on with the province for several years. And the province did notify us of a recount that was happening that started last week. And so they were placing counters around that area to get updated counts to gauge the current state of traffic and the ability for us to move forward with some enhancements to public safety.
Thank you, Madam Warden. Thanks to staff for asking or answering my questions. Thank you.
Counselor Mitchell.
Thank you, Madam Warden. On April the 18th, I attended a Zoom meeting on community economic development, on the Community Economic Fund. It was an information session, and I forwarded off to Jesse, and he can use the information that's presented to, if he can benefit the municipality. And the fund used to be the Investment Nova Scotia Fund, which was established in 2014, and it's administered by the Department of Economic Development. On April the 19th, I attended the volunteer night as long as all the other councilors. And first of all, I want to thank staff for an excellent job again. I want to congratulate all the Shining Stars and the firefighters Long-Time Service Awards, especially Councilor Rhino for his 45 years. We had a picture taken together. And also from the two members.
You didn't get a hug, though.
Pardon?
You didn't get a hug.
Well, his arm was around me, so I thought that was close. Two members of the Elmsville Fire and Emergency Services, the ex-Chief Mac Noble at 50 years, and Chief Kevin McGowan at 30 years, and I was, along with Councilor Rhino, my 45th year. Presented 3 beautification grants came in. Elmsville Learning and Resource Center, they wanted one for their sign box, for flowers and other decorative things. Last year, they put in the flowers, and a day later, they were stolen. So they're trying it again. The Elmsville Cemetery, which is across from the lights of Tim Hortons, has a grant to put in plants and flowers and shrubs, so beautify that up. And the last one is the Elmsville Beautification Society, which does the hanging baskets and the wreaths through the village of Elmsdale. Last evening, on April 23rd, the Colchester East End Library Board met in Truro. The Elmsdale Library had a request for a newer computer for the library catalog because the other one was failing, and that has been now rectified. They have their computer. An email today is just a heads up to the upcoming Sportsplex quarterly meeting for the Sportsplex is on Monday, to my surprise, but I'll be attending. And finally, I had an email from a resident from District 2 dealing with, I'll try to explain it as best I can, a graduated implementation of increased property value assessments, and it has to do with the tax burden, which is around $6,000. If the percentage increase exceeds a specific threshold, could be there some kind of way so that they could pay so much the first year and catch up in the second year to eliminate their tax burden. So I said I'd bring it forth and see if there's any discussion on that. Through the staff.
Through you, Madam Warden, on the PVSC or the assessment issue, there are different models that the province has looked at for assessments that come in high.
Right.
Specifically, when they were looking at removing the CAP program, what other models could come into play to help ease the burden of of significant increases. To my knowledge, there's been nothing that's been moved on that probably in 3 or 4 years. Those discussions aren't happening with the current government, so I'm not sure what the answer is. I know we can't do that sort of at the municipal level.
Right.
It would have to be, because we have the Municipal Government Act and the Assessment Act that we have to follow. But if that's something that council wants to bring up with the province, we could,
Is the province still looking at it?
to my knowledge, they're not. It's not on the table for this government.
Maybe reach out to my MLA, and is that acceptable?
I would think, Madam Warden, if it's something that council wants to pursue, then we would pursue it on behalf of council through the warden.
Okay. Okay, I'll leave it at that for now, and
So do we want to have a motion for council to send a letter or to?
If you want to. Yeah, he said he was gonna leave it for now.
Okay. I just don't want the counselor to be expecting I'm gonna do something if I haven't had direction to do something from council.
no, well, I'll just leave it for now and
Okay, thank you.
see if the province does take it back up. Maybe some other municipalities have the same concern.
I think through you, Madam Warden, the direction if council wanted to take would be to go through the NSFM, because they're the ones who would make this a priority
Okay.
to move it forward on behalf of municipalities, so there may be,
I can bring that up at the NSFM.
yeah, they have some of their, new groups, their working groups. I'm not sure which one that would fall under, but I can certainly follow up and see.
Okay. And I can follow up with NSFM. Thank you, that's all, Madam Warden.
And the CAO had asked to speak when Councillor Eisner was speaking and I missed her, so. I'm gonna give her the-
Thank you, Madam Warden. Just to go back to Jesse's comments around the water utility and the chemicals, we do actually have a memo that we were going to post for council's information, because the chemical spend was significant this year, and it's more than just your regular budget over expenditure, so I wanted council to be aware. Jesse's prepared the memo. We were able to reallocate a significant amount of dollars from other areas of the water utility to cover some of the over expenditure, but this budget came in 70% over. We also have about $50,000 that we can't cover, but we have a request in for $42,000 from the province for, under our disaster mitigation fund, because it's related back to the flooding. So there is a whole memo with graphs and whatnot that is in my inbox, and I'll forward that to Shirley to post for your information this evening. It'll be posted tomorrow, but.
Okay. Anything further, Councillor Mitchell? Councillor Garden Cole?
Thank you, Madam Warden. Just to follow up on that, when we went through the water treatment plant late last summer, early fall, the supervisor there talked about the amount of chemicals that they were going through and the height of the water and how it just didn't typically go back down. And as someone who lives on the river, I can attest to that. It was like nothing we had ever experienced before. So, you know, that's just some of the effects of the weather that we've had. Coming from District 1 this month, I've done attended numerous meetings, CCOA meeting as they corridor community options as they are moving right along with their new build, which is very exciting. The source water protection meeting, which is a quarterly meeting, had all kinds of information. It doesn't, the outline that we did in no way gives you an idea of some of the things we talked about. It was quite creepy what's in our water out there as far as organisms and whatnot and how they deal with it. This time of year, we get numerous applications for grant funds, et cetera, and usually those groups are reaching out to me prior to that just to let me know of what they're doing. And I must say it's amazing every spring that there's so much going on. I mean, they want money, and I wish I could give them more out of the district rec funds because there's so many great projects going on. And that leads right into the volunteer awards, because it's all volunteers who are doing this kind of thing, bettering our communities and our communities are built on the backs of our volunteers and our firefighters, including the long service firefighters who were receiving awards the other night. It's inspirational to see these long-time volunteers. And as well, I just wanted to mention that this past month, we lost 2 pillars of our community in District 1, 2 remarkable women, both in their mid-90s, Florence Benry and also Rita White. Between them, they had 28 children, 14 children each, and I can't even tell you how many grandchildren and great-grandchildren, but the community of Enfield was, literally, they had a lot to do with that. So Florence being a MacDonnell as her maiden name, and Rita being a Benry. So they are some people who come from a long line of Enfield residents, and it was a real loss, but amazing celebration of life for those 2 women. And that's it from District 1. Thank you.
Counselor Rhino. I did click it.
Thank you, Madam Warden. I too, as Councilor, or Deputy Warden said, attended 80th birthday for Billy McCullough in April. As you all know, I attended in the volunteer awards, and I'd like to congratulate every one of the Shining Stars, every one of the long service, and the nominee for the year, Margie Newman. Well-deserved awards. I'd like to thank Councillor Tingley and Councillor Mitchell for their kind words. It really was an enjoyable evening. I really enjoyed the evening thoroughly. It was kind of fun when Cody Blois said he didn't know I could have a sense of humor, but, well, there you go. Anyway. But with that, this long service award, and I'd like to congratulate, like I say, Councillor Mitchell and I had our picture taken 45 years. What I'd like to bring up is 45 years and our age and stuff like that, and not to mention anybody else's, but it seems I actually am in my 47th year, talking to myself personally. Now, I had to wait because I asked Adam about this, and Adam said you have to wait a whole year before you get your award. Well, I'd like to see that change, because if you have your 50th anniversary of being in the fire service in that calendar year, to me, that's when that should be honored, not a year and a half later because of our age. And I'm still around for when I'm 50, and I hope Councillor Mitchell does too. But I think it should be in that calendar year that you are having your actual 50th anniversary. Not that, because we could end up presenting these awards posthumously when you get up there around 45, 15, 55, and 60. So I'd rather see those awarded in the calendar year, whether they're 2 months short or what. But I'd rather see that than I would rather give it to somebody's widow posthumously 2 years later. So I'm wondering if we could change that, and I'd like to see staff's opinion on that.
Are these our awards or the fire? Do we control that, I guess is my question.
Through you, Madam Warden, I guess the point of a piece to answer your question. There are other levels of government awards, and the criteria is you have to have completed that year of service. So the way it is done currently is it's the firefighter has completed the year of service, and then they're awarded at the most recent awards applicable. So that is the piece that is important to note, that you have to have the year's completed service. The other thing I would just mention with the departments, and I think record keeping's evolving, but also just in a general comment, getting the dates of when firefighters may have actually started, the months, isn't always there. So we're just trying to work with the local fire service to get all of the information. But I think I've answered the question about it. Just has to be, you have to have completed the years of service to be eligible to get that award. Now, Council
We
does,
can't change that because it's not our award.
council cannot change that, Madam Mayor. However, we are doing it as part of our annual awards event, and that is council's process.
Well, to me, it just seems odd. And like I say, we could be doing this posthumously. That, to me, that's not right. If these are, no matter what the province does, are not these long service awards by the municipality?
No,
No?
only one.
Well, it's just funny because my 40th certificate, I got my 40th certificate, and now this certificate is 6 years later. So 40 and 45 makes 5, and it's showing on their certificate 6. This is where I'd like to see for the older people, maybe we can write somebody to see if we could get this changed, because I really think it should be in the year of the anniversary before we have to pass them out posthumously. That's my opinion on that, so. Anyway, also, I'd like to announce that this Saturday night, the Maitland Volunteer Fire Department will be celebrating its 50th anniversary. So there'll be a dinner there with invited guests, and after that, there will be a dance to celebrate. One more thing came to my mind after, on a long drive home, you get a chance to think. This is to do with planning. Now, I'd like, if somebody can answer this, fine. But it seems to me a lot in this planning here, we go through a process that rezone properties, and this the person brings it forth, has a proposal on building a certain type of building. Staff keeps them in the guidelines. But then when we have a public hearing, they put that out there. This is what we're gonna do. This is the exact thing. The public sees this. Okay, let's say it gets rezoned. And then the next thing you know, that person who just got that rezoned is now sold it. And now it somehow works its back, whether it's through another process, okay, it's rezoned, but under a development agreement, here's what I propose now. It just seems like the public is getting frustrated with it because they're seeing, in one hand, they're saying, okay, we're gonna build this, and then in a little while down the road, it's sold, and probably specifically sold after it was rezoned. Is there any way that we can tighten that up so that doesn't happen?
Well, we have no one from planning here this evening, but Adam, I see, is willing to take a shot at it. Oh, sorry, he was pointing at Kim. Go ahead, CAO.
Through you, Counselor, I understand there has been some frustration on some of these as we've gone through in the last few months in particular. You know, the question would have to wait for a fulsome answer when John or Rachel is in the room. However, there are certain zones that you can't have development agreements. There's certain restrictions on development agreements once you get into the zone. So often the applicant is left with no other choice than to come with a rezoning application. Then the problem becomes that council typically doesn't want to just blindly rezone a piece of property. They want to know the intent and the future and whatnot, which applicants generally will provide you, but there's no guarantee they're going to build that. So that's sort of the cycle that you get into. If that's something that you want to look at, I would suggest it's a fairly significant change to some of your zones and plans. We could certainly have planners look at that, what the options would be to sort of minimize that. But what you're explaining is really everything. The certainty of a development agreement is what you're looking for in some of these, because really zoning changes, they can build whatever the zone allows.
I understand that.
Yeah,
but
so you either don't get that view of what the applicant is thinking and not committing to, or you create development agreements. Those are really your two high-level choices. Development agreement is possible, but not every zone and every situation do your policies allow development agreements to
But the
happen.
complaints I'm getting is that we come here and the public sets through zoning, and they have this big grandiose plan, and okay, bang, it's rezoned. Then the next thing you know, as soon as the ink stamp is on it that it's rezoned, it's sold, and then the public look and say, well, that's not what they approved, this is another thing. It may fall within the general guidelines, but it's not. And this is what's confusing to the public out there. And I'm wondering, just to myself, is the profit being made by getting this rezoned and then selling it to down the road to another? Is that is there any intent in doing it? I just feel that should be examined and to eliminate, because the public, like I said, are getting told one thing, and then down the road it changes to another. And I don't know if I'm the only counselor that feels like this, but these are the complaints I've been getting, and I'm just wondering if it's worthy for to look into it further.
Through Madam Warren, the caution is always there to the public that this is not guaranteed as to what's going to be built. It's in every staff report, it's in all of our comments. Councilors around the room understand that. And as far as, you get them or sort of approved for rezoning, you have a development and then you sell it. There's really not a lot council can do about that. It's a free market for people to buy and sell land as they choose. So I think if you tried to stop that, you'd probably come up with some issues if you tried to put policies in place to limit that being able to be done, because people can work within your processes and sell and buy land as they choose. I think the frustration comes with people assuming that that's what's going to be built. And I know in all of our applications, we've been so careful to make sure that in every report, we say this is not guaranteed to what's going to be built. This is what's as of right. Once they rezone this, it can look however. And short of just them coming in with no vision at all, which in years past frustrated council, I'm not sure what we can do. But we could certainly have planning look to see what other folks do and to see if there's any way to sort of change that expectation that what's being shown is being built to satisfy council's desire to sort of have some idea of the future versus the public's frustration. But as far as, not enabling people to buy and sell land, you won't be able to do that.
Well, I think we should look into it. When we are pretty darn sure that, this proposal on rezoning and this person plans to build this, a certain type, and it's gone through, whether we say it may not be built or not, then to me, it almost seems like a waste of time. And I would like to maybe try to tighten that up some, because I think what is proposed for that zoning change, and based on that zoning change, should be put in place. That's my opinion. So I'll throw it out there. I would move that the planning committee look at the circumstances surrounding rezoning of land and rezoning of land. And you can take it from there.
Moved and seconded. Councillor Garden Cole to the motion.
Thank you, Madam Warden.
It should be coming on.
Gotcha. So, and to go even further, so first of all, we've got, and yes, lately, we've been here with public meetings with, at times, a room full of people, and there's been emails back and forth and this and that building up to it, and then it gets approved, and come Monday morning, it's for sale for, however much more than what it, and maybe that is following within the parameters of what is allowed. But I can still see a resident in a group of people saying, well, you know what? Talking with the developer about how there were windows on this side and he lives there, and for that reason, he was okay with this because it felt, the way they'd put it wouldn't even, and I'm sitting here thinking, we are not deceiving them, but there has to be more information to residents, not just about that it may not be this way, but that it may not be the local contractor that you're hinging because they're a good guy, they're going to do what's right for the community and this and that, because it's totally changing. We had one development that came before us, a smaller one in Elmsdale, and the criteria for the fence, and there were neighbors that are going to be vastly impacted by this proposed development at the time, right in their backyards. And one of the responses was, well, this is a local person, and he's going to go above and beyond what's required because he's a good guy, and he'll do that for people from the community he comes from. 2 weeks later or less, it was for sale and it's sold. And so there just seems to be, I just feel like there is we need to find a way to make things clearer and more transparent for residents about how it works and if it is right or how other people are doing it. And if, I know you say that people have the right to buy and sell property, and fair enough, but the other thing is the elaborate plans that they're going through and the work that they're going through to set up these, proposed developments when I don't think there's there may not be any intention to do them at all. They're just going to turn around and sell it, which is the case in a recent one, unless they're going to move the plans and all the work they've done onto the next person who buys it. I'm not sure how it works, but to me, something doesn't seem quite right about the whole process. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Okay. Councillor Musa to the motion.
Thank you, Madam Warden. I think once we approve a proposal, as long if somebody sold it, it's their own land. So it's like selling the property that you own 100 years or the property that you own yesterday. So you could always sell your land, and I don't think we could stop that. But when we rezone one land, I know that whatever they put on it have to go through site plan approval, and they get obey the they're gonna do their setbacks for that zone, and as long they have all those recommendations approved by the site plan, I don't think we can do anything about it. And if we try to do something, I think it's appealable. I think it's gonna cost a lot of money. So probably when we do the rezoning, that's before we do the rezoning, that where all the what could be done and what couldn't be done be talking about. And after the rezoning, I don't think we have anything to do with it. Thank you.
CAO.
Through you, Madam Warden, I just wanted to address one of Councillor Garden-Cole's questions. The elaborate plans that come with some of these applications, that is where the value is for the purchaser of the property, is in the plans that have already been done. So quite often, they may get varied a little bit at site plan approval, but quite often that is what they're buying, is that pre-approved package. And I think, even if it is a development agreements can go with the property. So rezoning or development agreement, if someone puts the work in to get that through council and proposed and approved, there really isn't much you can do. They tie to the property, regardless of whether it's a development agreement or not. So, because you couldn't get halfway through a development and sell the property and then council say, well, that development agreement's no good anymore. You'd have a stalled market and no trust in the planning process. So that planning process, I felt in the last few that we've had, and I'm sure if I went back and looked at the other ones, we've been very clear to folks that it's not what needs to be built. I've had conversations with many of them, and it's difficult for them to understand that. And even if they understand it, then once they get back into it, they kind of forget again and get frustrated all over again. So it certainly is something we can probably improve our communication around. But I'm not sure there's going to be anything the planners will come back and tell you to do differently.
Counselor Garden Cole.
Thank you, Madam Warden. And I understand what Councillor Moose is saying, and I'm not disputing that. I understand that the process that they're going through, and that's the right. What I am saying is that I guess, although we may feel like we're making it clear, we need to do more to, explain to them. And let's say the development agreement is for an elaborate plan that they've done, but they can change that, right?
No, not a development, sorry, through Madam Warden. Substantial amendments to a development agreement have to come back through council.
Okay,
Through the
so
public process.
substantial amendments, but it doesn't have to be exactly like what they,
For a development agreement, it's pretty set. There's a lot of things in your development agreement that are outlined that have to be just so. So if it's a certain height of fence, or if it's a certain,
Right.
those are all outlined in a development agreement. The difference is when you rezone, the rezoning is to a zoned standard. So there's certain things that can and cannot happen in the zone. Those are outlined in your planning policies.
okay. But when you
So-
just said that you make it clear to the residents that it may not be exactly like this.
Right.
So there is room for variation,
on rezoning,
right?
yes, not on
Okay.
development agreements.
Okay,
But some of your zones you don't want to have everyone go through a development agreement every time they do
exactly.
a construction.
Yeah,
So your zoning is what tells them, how many units, how big
which
the
is what
size and
we
all
dealt
those
with
things.
recently. Yeah, and I get that. I just feel like we think that we're being clear about it maybe, but then residents are going home and they're not. So we just need to think outside the box on how we can get this information out there, and that the other thing is maybe, could go for sale, maybe different developer, so you can't rely on, anything that say this other one in Elmsdale. Just that kind of thing. I think we need more transparency in how it works, not necessarily change the outcome, because the outcome seems to be pretty set. Thank you.
Okay, seeing no one on to speak, Counselor McPhee.
I was going to, are we done with this topic? I
No, we
guess?
have to vote on the
Okay,
motion.
yes, sorry, I'll wait.
Question has been called. And the motion is passed by a vote of 7-4 with the Deputy Warden, Counselor Hebb, Counselor Moose, and Counselor Eisner voting nay. Okay, back to. Okay, I'm gonna let Counselor Rhino finish his business from counselors first. Okay, Counselor McPhee.
Well, thank you, Madam Warden. With the motion about the bus stop in Shubenacadie, Councillor Garden Cole had mentioned the 1.6 limit. The CAO has since done the calculation. It is under 1.6, so I think it's best if I talk to the concerned parents and guardians to let them know the jeopardy issue that might be there if we want to proceed with this. So should I make a motion to table that motion?
Or just pending, we can just take our direction from Counselor McPhee if he wants to proceed.
Oh, okay.
Does that work?
Well, I think we have a motion on the floor to do it. I think we would have to have a motion to do something different.
Have a motion for me to take my direction from Counselor McPhee.
So someone prepared to move that the Deputy Warden, and I believe the motion is regarding to the Shubenacadie bus stop motion, that that will be followed up on pending further consultation between the CAO and Counselor McPhee. Seconded by I don't know, I'm back a year, by Counselor Perry. Is there any discussion on the motion?
Question.
Question's been called. And the motion is passed unanimously. All right, that concludes business from counselors. We do have an in-camera session to discuss 3 land issues, so I would be looking for a motion to move in camera.
So moved.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary? Motion is carried. We will wait for the system to move us in camera. Okay, I've been told we are back online. I would report that we met in camera to discuss some land issues. There are no motions coming forward as a result of those discussions. So I would now be looking for a motion to set the time and date of the next council meetings, May 21st, 2024, regular meeting of council for policy and in camera, and May 29th for the regular meeting of council.
So moved.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary? Motion is carried. I'm now looking for a motion.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion is carried. We'll allow staff some time to